Hari Om. Salutations to all study class members and a very warm welcome, Swami Aparajitananda ji, who joins us from Mangalore. We are truly grateful to you, Swami ji, for having taken time out of your busy schedule to be with us for 3 days. Pranam, Swami ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Rakhi ji Gandhi will welcome Swami ji with the traditional Purnakum.
Pranam Swamiji, a warm welcome with the traditional Purnakumbha. Om na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagenaike amritatvamānashuh parena nakam nihitam guhayam vibrajate tadyatayo vishanti Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitartha Sannyasa Yogadyatah Shuddha Sattva Aha Te Brahma Loke Tu Para Antakale Paramritat Parimuchanti Sarve Dahram Vipapam Parameshma Bhutam Yat Pundarikam Puramadhya Sakhastham Tatrapi dahram gaganam vishokastasmin yadantastadupasitavyam yo vedadav swarav prokto vedante cha pratishtita tasya prakritilinasya yah parasya maheshwarah boliye Sadguru Maharaj ki jai. Hari Om.
Thank you, Rakhi ji. Alkaji Sadarangani will commence this study group event with the invocation.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Samasta Jan Kalyani, Niratam Karunamayam, Namami Chinmayam Devam, Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram.
Thank you, Alkaji. We now invite Abhaji Shroff, Trustee Chinmaya Mission Mumbai, to welcome Swami Aparajitananda ji.
Thank you. Hari Om Swamiji, pranams and salutations to all who are present here today. On behalf of Chinmaya Mission Mumbai, Chinmaya Sagar Zone, I extend a very warm welcome to you. We are indeed grateful to you, Swamiji, for accepting our humble invitation and excited to get yet another opportunity to attend these 3-day series of talks by you, Swamiji. Many of us already know Swami Aparajitananda, but for those who are listening to him for the first time, he's a very fluent speaker in English, has conducted several discourses in various parts of the country and many reputed institutions. The depth of his understanding, along with clarity in the subject, is clearly visible to us all in all his discourses. Swamiji has served several mission centers in Karnataka, and currently he is at Chinmaya Mission, Mangalore. Like me, I am sure all those who have logged in here are eagerly waiting to hear you, Swamiji, and take us through this journey from bondage to liberation. Thank you, pranams, and welcome again. Hari Om.
Thank you, Abaji. Just as Abaji said, most of us have had the privilege of hearing Swami Aparananda ji in the past. But for those who haven't, yes, she told us a little bit about our esteemed speaker. Let me tell you a little bit more. Swami Aparajitananda ji, in his Purva ashram, was an electronics and communications engineer. After working for 5 years as a lecturer at an engineering college in Bangalore, Swamiji resigned from his job to follow his inner calling and study our Indian scriptures. Swamiji underwent intense training at Sandipani Sadhanalaya, Mumbai for 2 years and then joined the Chinmaya mission full-time. In 2018, on Mahashivratri, Swamiji was given sannyasa diksha. As Abaji already told you, the depth of his understanding and his clarity on the subject is apparent in all his addresses. And he is also a regular contributor to various publications. And his articles have been widely appreciated. Swamiji has served at the mission centers of Karnataka, in Bangalore, Mysore, and Shimoga. Currently, he is serving at the Chinmaya Mission Center in Mangalore. His hugely popular talks are available to us on the Chinmaya Mission YouTube website. We welcome you with great gratitude, Swamiji. Please note that we will have a question and answer session at the end of Swamiji's talk, followed by the Gita Aarti. For those of you who wish to offer Guru Dakshina or be a Yajman, the donation link has already been posted. During the talk, I request you to please ensure that your videos are off and your mic is on mute so that we do not have any disturbance throughout. Thank you. And now, Swamiji, what we've been all eagerly waiting for, we wish to hear you enlighten us on the subject of bondage and liberation, based on the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15. With pronouns, over to you, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Is the audio clear?
Absolutely, Swamiji.
Clear. Okay. Right. Oh. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः आओ गुरुदेव दर्शन दीजो तुम हो जगत के धाता तुम हो जगत के धाता तुम ही हो ब्रह्मा तुम ही हो विष्णु तुम ही हो शंकर रूपा सृष्टि स्थिति लय स्वरूप तुम हो अनादि रूपा आओ गुरुदेव दर्शन दीजो तुम हो जगत के धाता, तुम हो जगत के धाता। अनाथ नाथ दीन बंधु, तुम हो आनंद रूपा। अज्ञान नाशक शरण संरक्षक, आत्मज्ञान प्रदाता। आओ गुरुदेव दर्शन दीजो, तुम हो जगत के धाता, तुम हो जगत के धाता। Humble prostrations to one and all present here. For the next 3 days, starting from today, we are going to discuss the topic understanding bondage and liberation based on the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So if this question is asked, what is bondage? What will be our understanding about this? How will we answer this question? Define bondage if this question is asked. We can say let us say a person is tied to the pole. A person is tied to the pole. We say he's bound, isn't it? He's bound. What do we actually mean when we say he's bound? What we mean is he has no freedom to move around. He is in a state of helplessness. So that state of helplessness, that state of feeling limited, that state of lack of freedom is called bondage. As far as the physical bondage is concerned, we can understand. But in spirituality, when we say bondage, what does it mean? The meaning is the same. It is a state of helplessness. So what are the situations where we experience helplessness, where we experience a lack of freedom, where we experience limitation? What are the fields? What are the places? So if we analyze, we find that there are so many things I want for myself, but I don't have it in life. For example, I don't want disease, but helplessly I fall sick now and then. I don't want old age, but helplessly the old age will come. I have no choice. It's a choiceless situation. See, at the body level, I want infinite strength, but I know physically my strength is limited. I'm helpless. I know my limitations. I don't want physical death, but I know someday or the other I will die. You see, these are all the situations where we experience a state of helplessness. So this is the bondage at the physical level. What about the mind level? At the mind level also we experience bondage. How? Various kinds of emotions. I know that they are all negative emotions, but I am helpless. Anger is a negative emotion. Jealousy is a negative emotion. Stress, strain, worry, anxiety, they are all negative emotions. I don't want them because they are nothing but happiness, misery, pain, suffering. But helplessly, I entertain these negative thoughts and feelings. I am helpless. That state of helplessness is what is called as bondage. I don't want unhappiness, but helplessly I am unhappy. I want happiness, but helplessly I am not getting happiness. You see? Are you able to see the helpless situation? That state of helplessness is called bondage. I am bound. There are people whom I consider near and dear ones. In their presence, I am happy, but life is such that all the time they are not with me. I am helpless. I have to get separated from my near and dear ones. There are people in the company of whom I become miserable, but helplessly they are always together with me. That is also kind of bondage, isn't it? So people around me, the state of my mind. At the intellectual level, how do I experience bondage? There are things which I am not able to understand. That is bondage at the intellectual level. There are so many things I want to know, but because of intellectual limitation, I am not able to know. There are infinite things in the world about which I am ignorant. So that is a limitation at the intellectual level. I desire infinite knowledge, but helplessly I am not able to achieve that state. Right. Of course, there are bondage at the financial level. There are so many things which I desire, I want to purchase, but my financial limitations don't allow me to get those things. So there is a political bondage also. In some countries, you don't have so many rights. If you go to a foreign country, they say that so many things you can't do, which a normal citizen of that country can do. That is political bondage. So in so many ways, we experience bondage. So what is bondage? Bondage is a state of helplessness, experience of a state of limitation, experience of a state of lack of freedom that we experience. So how do we experience bondage? Bondage is always experienced as pain, as misery, as suffering. Nobody wants to be in a state of bondage because it is nothing but misery. Therefore, all of us want to liberate ourselves from bondage. Now, since we are discussing the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, how is bondage defined there? So the first verse itself says, Urdhvamula madhashakham ashwatham prahurayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam veda savedavita. So there, Ashwatha tree, a samsara vriksha is defined, is narrated in order to indicate our bondage. So how is bondage defined in 15th chapter? Bondage is defined as experience of constant change. Samsara, samsarati, constant change. And to indicate that constant change, this vriksha, this tree is illustrated. What is the tree? Ashwatha tree. What is this Ashwatha tree? Ashwatha. Tha, that which stays. Shwa, tomorrow. Tomorrow, that which stays is Shwatha. So Ashwatha means that which does not stay tomorrow. Means what? Something which is constantly changing. So in 15th chapter, bondage is described as an experience of constant change. Now a question may come, how can constant change be called bondage? Just because something is constantly changing doesn't mean that it is bondage. How can you say that? So therefore we will have to define the characteristics of this change that we experience in the world. What is the nature of change in this world that we experience? What is the nature of the change? Number one, in this world, nature of change is unpredictability and uncertainty. In which direction change is going to happen, we don't know. What is there in the future, we don't know. So everything is uncertain, everything is unpredictable. This is the nature of this change. Number one. Number two, we have no control over this change. In most of the situations, 99.99% of the situations, we have absolutely no control over the change that is happening around us. So what is the first one? This change is unpredictable, uncertain. What is the second one? We have no control over this change. Means what? You have to helplessly experience this change. We have no choice. And number three, in most of the cases, in the long run, this change makes us insecure and unhappy. In the long run, the end result of this change, where does it take us to? It takes us to insecurity, a feeling of insecurity and a feeling of unhappiness. This is the nature of the world. This is the nature of the change of the world. Three important points: unpredictable, uncertain, number one. Number two, we have no control. And number three, this change is in a direction which makes us insecure and unhappy. So therefore, this change, we can say, this change is making us helpless. And because that state of helplessness is nothing but bondage, we can say experience of constant change in the world is nothing but experience of bondage. Is it clear? Experience of change is experience of bondage, because in this experience of change, we experience helplessness, we experience lack of freedom, we experience limitation. This is the nature of the change of the world. So therefore, this experience of change is nothing but experience of bondage. Right. Now the question is, this bondage, how long it is? So the verse says, Ashwatham prahu avyayam. Avyayam means imperishable. This bondage is imperishable. It has no end at all. There is no end to this bondage, as though the bondage is permanent. Avyayam. There is no vyaya. There is no end to this bondage. So the nature of bondage is suffering. So there is no end to bondage means what? There is no end to suffering. This is the nature of the world. So who is the one who will desire liberation? The one who is experiencing suffering in the world alone will desire liberation. The one who has understood bondage as suffering, who has understood life as suffering, alone will desire liberation. This is a very important point. Swamiji, you say life is full of suffering. Are you not pessimistic? There are some people who say like this. Maybe in your life some tragedies have happened, therefore you say it's all pain, etc. But there are so many people who are enjoying life. They don't consider life as suffering. They consider life as full of merriment, joy, happiness. So maybe Swamiji, only in your life such a thing has happened. We sympathize with you. Please understand, when we say life is full of suffering, is it a pessimistic view or is it a realistic view? What is pessimism, by the way? See, pessimism and optimism, both of them are analysis of life. In fact, there is no analysis. It is just a hopeful thinking. A pessimistic person hopes that everything will be negative, imagines that everything will be negative. A pessimistic person imagines that everything will be positive and good. Both are mere fragments of imagination. It has nothing to do with reality. You hope that something will be good. Both of them are daydreamers. Whether it is a pessimistic guy or whether it is a pessimistic or a optimistic person. What about a realistic person? A realistic person is not living in imagination. He is in touch with the realities of life. And what is the reality of life? We say the reality of life is suffering, it is pain. If a person says, no, life is full of joy, then we only say you have not analyzed life perfectly, totally, comprehensively. You have not analyzed life. Buddha, whole of life he analyzes and says, he gives actually 4 realities. There are 4 statements regarding what life is. The first statement he says is, there is sorrow. This is the first statement. Life is nothing but sorrow. This is the first statement. The second statement is, there is a reason for this sorrow. In everyone's life, there is sorrow. This is statement number 1. Everybody is miserable. This is statement number 1. Statement number 2 is, we are miserable because of a reason. There is a cause for this sorrow. Statement number 3, we can end this sorrow. And statement number 4, there are ways to end the sorrow. Bas. These are the 4 realities of life. There is sorrow. There is a reason for sorrow. Sorrow can be removed. And there are ways to remove sorrows. These are the 4 realities of life according to Buddha. So why I am discussing all this? Because a desire for liberation will never come to a person who thinks that life is full of joy. Why should he get liberated then? Why should one get liberated from happiness? Moksha means liberation. If you think life is full of happiness and celebration, why do you need liberation then? You are already liberated. So therefore, a necessary condition for desiring liberation is a perfect analysis of life's experiences. And where should it lead us to? It should lead us to this conclusion that life is full of misery. The more intensely you are aware of this, more intensely you will desire liberation. Mumukshutvam will become very intense. Greater the intensity of misery in life, greater will be the desire for liberation. They are connected. A person who thinks life has nothing to do with misery, he will never have a desire for liberation. So the necessary condition for the desire for liberation is experience of suffering, experience of pain. In fact, everybody is suffering. Only few are aware that they are suffering. It's a very interesting thing. We can suffer and still we can be unaware of suffering. A mumukshu is a person who is suffering and who is aware that he is suffering. And because he is aware that he is suffering, he is finding out ways to come out of this suffering. Right? Only a hungry person will search for food. Only a thirsty person will search for water. In the same way, only a miserable person will search for liberation. So what is the qualification for liberation? Misery is the qualification. In fact, painful awareness of suffering in life is the qualification for the desire for liberation. Are you convinced? So, we have defined what is bondage, the state of helplessness. Life is nothing but constant change, and this constant change is nothing but bondage. Now, the next question is accepted that life is full of misery, but how did I land here? Who is the cause? I find myself suddenly into this world. So maybe God has pushed me into this miserable world. Who is the cause of my suffering? I don't find myself as the cause. So therefore comes a second verse in the 15th chapter. What is the second verse? Adhaschurdhvam prasrutastasya shakha guna pravruddha vishaya pravala adhascha moolananu santatani karmanubandhini manushya-loke. So this verse explains to us how did we land here in this world of change, in this state of bondage. How did we land here? So the description of Samsara Vriksha through the analogy of a tree, this bondage is explained. So before we enter into this verse, there is something which we have to understand. What is that? The relationship between the branch and the roots. So what is the relationship? So the roots are two types. One is the main root, the other is the secondary root, which spread all over. The main root is the central root. So here we are talking of the secondary roots which spread around. So what is the relationship between the secondary roots and the branches? What is the relationship? The relationship is thicker the branches, thicker will be the roots. Longer the branches, longer will be the roots. More the branches, more will be the roots. There is a relationship. Branches, they demand nourishment. The roots, they provide nourishment. One is demanding, the other is supplying. There is a demand-supply relationship. The roots demand nourishment. The branches make use of this nourishment to grow. Now let us see this verse. Vishaya pravalaha. This is where everything starts. Pravala means a shoot, the small nodular bud which grows to become a branch. So that bud is called pravala. So what is that pravala? So it is said here, Vishaya pravala. Sense objects are the shoots. Means what? See, the first step is interaction with the sense objects. The first. So what are we doing here? We are trying to find out how did we land into this world. This is what the topic is. Interaction with the sense objects. How do we interact with the sense objects? With our sense organs. This is the first step. We interact with the sense objects. What happens then? Either sukha will happen or dukkha will happen. When we interact with the sense objects, either there is joy or there is sorrow. Sukha or dukkha. What happens when there is sukha? When there is sukha, you get attached to that thing which gives sukha. Remember, whenever I am saying Vishaya, the sense object, it can be Vastu, Vyakti or Paristhiti. Vastu, a thing. Vyakti, a being. Or Paristhiti, an environment. It can be any of these. Right? So whenever we say Vishaya, it is either a thing, being or a situation. So, what is the first step? Interaction with the sense objects. Interaction with the sense objects. In this interaction, what is the result? There is either sukha or there is dukkha. Whichever is giving me sukha, joy, I tend to get attached to them. Whichever is giving dukkha, I tend to hate them. So what is the result of sukha dukkha? The next step is raga dvesha. Raga dvesha. Whatever is giving me sukha, I tend to develop raga, attachment to them. Whatever is giving me dukkha, I tend to have dvesha towards them. I tend to hate them. So, first step, interaction with the sense objects. Second step, sukha dukkha. Third step, raga dvesha. What will be the fourth step? Performance of action based on raga dvesha. I like something, so therefore I want more and more of that thing. I want always to spend time with that thing. I try to get that thing from different corners of the world. Either I try to get that thing or I myself go there. See, raga dvesha will force you to act in that direction. Those things which don't give me joy, I try to run away from it. I don't try to collect it. I don't try to make it a part of my life, a part of my environment. I want to filter it out because it gives me pain. So, see the sequence. What is the first one? Interaction with the sense objects. What is the second one? Sukha dukkha. Third one, ragadvesha. What is the next one? Karma based on ragadvesha. What is karma? Karma is nothing but interaction with the sense objects. Again, now there is a cycle. Are you able to see the cycle here? Action is nothing but what? Interaction with the sense object. That is action, karma. Karma, karma phala, sukha dukkha, ragadvesha. Based on ragadvesha, again karma. This goes on and on and on. And slowly what happens? Slowly what happens is, I create a world around me. All those things being situation which I like, I select them. All those things being situation which I don't like, I filter them out from my life. So I create a world. Right. So now here you see Vishaya Pravalaha. First is a shoot, a nodular shoot. So it is demanding nourishment. So the secondary root starts growing, it brings in nourishment, and the shoot slowly grows, gaining nourishment from the root. And finally, what happens? The root also has grown, the branch also has grown. Right? Here, the branch stands for the world around me and the instruments in me. Both stand for this branch. The body, mind, intellect, and the world of OET. Both of them are nothing but this branch. And what is this root? This root is nothing but vasanas, which is nothing but raga dvesha. So you see, as I interact with the world around me changes. As I interact with the world, the vasanas in me becomes deeper and deeper. Yes or no? Every time I perform action based on my vasanas, the vasanas become intense. This is a law. I keep on doing something which I like. Slowly, the like becomes an addiction. Tea, coffee example generally we give. Every day you drink tea and a time comes when that becomes an addiction. So intense raga dvesha. Intense raga dvesha is nothing but intense vasanas. And here, these secondary roots, they represent the vasanas in me, the samskaras in me, the inclinations in me, the addictions in me. Just like the root, they are not seen. What is seen is the branch. What is not seen is the roots. Roots are not seen, branches are seen. The vasanas are not seen, the world around me and my body, etc., it is seen. There is something which is seen, there is something which is not seen in every personality. Remember, we are all samsara vrikshas. We are all that huge tree. That Ashwatha vriksha is not something outside, it is nothing but we ourselves. Each and every one of us, we are an Ashwatha vriksha. We are an experiencer, experiencing change, experiencing limitation, experiencing misery. Right. Now see the term used, karma anubandhini. Karma anubandhini means that which follows action, that which is born out of action, born as a byproduct of action. Karma anubandhini. Anubandha means as a product of karma. So how are these vasanas formed? You see, karma anubandhini is the adjective of mulani, secondary roots. So secondary roots means what? Vasanas. How are these vasanas formed? Karma anubandhini, born out of action. Only when we interact with the sense objects, vasanas are formed. And constant interaction with the sense objects will make the vasanas intense. That is the meaning. Karma anubandhini. Let me give an example. How we are creating a world around us constantly, unknowingly, unconsciously. How we land up in this world. So let us take an example here. So here this child going to school. Sports period is there. And there in the sports period, all the children, they took bat and ball, etc. So this child, he never knew what cricket is. For the first time, he's exposed to this game called cricket, let us say. He liked it. Then what did he do? He went to that nearby mohalla. Some children were playing every day evening. So therefore, he started playing cricket with those children. Every day evening, immediately after coming back from school, in the evening, say 5 to 7, he would play with them every day. He liked it more. He was performing better. Other children were appreciating him. So then what did he do? He came to know that there is a coaching center for cricket. Now, when is the time? So early morning, he would go for cricket coaching. Before going to school, early morning, he would go for coaching. So morning coaching, evening playing. Naturally, he'll become a better player. The coach of the school, he spotted his talent. He was selected for the school team. Slowly, he was selected for the college team. Naturally, if you play better, others will notice your performance. Then you are promoted, you are selected, you are shortlisted. District team, state team, national team. Now see what is happening in his life. Slowly, a time comes when he stops studying completely. He makes cricket his profession. Now what happens to a cricketer who is a professional cricketer? He has no time for anything else. His only time is for cricket. Yes or no? Either he's training himself, or he's coaching somebody, or he's giving some interview in cricket, or he's traveling to play cricket. What kinds of fans he will have? He will not have Vedantic fans. He will have only cricket fans. See the kind of world he's creating himself. How did he create this world? Somewhere he liked cricket, and this liking is called Vishaya Pravala. See, first time he was exposed, he liked it, he did more and more of it, and slowly the world around him changed. So, if this question is asked, who chose that cricket world for him? If this question is asked, what answer will you give? You cannot say it is God. You will have to say he only chose that world. So that is why this famous saying, beware of your thoughts because they become your words. Beware of your words because they become your actions. Beware of your actions because they become your habits. Beware of your habits because they become your character. And beware of your character because they determine your destiny. Everything is coming from thoughts. So the world that I am in is not determined by somebody, but it is determined by myself. I have chosen a particular thoughts, and according to my thoughts, the world also will appear. This example was of a cricketer. A politician, he chooses political thoughts. Now a political world is formed around him. Another person chooses science. A scientific world is formed around him. Engineering world is formed around him. Medicine, a medical world is formed around him. A criminal world is formed around him. So who is choosing this world? We ourselves. By choosing thoughts, we choose our world. By choosing vasanas, we choose our world. So in this tree, the branches represent the world. The roots represent the vasanas. Right. So if you use this BMI chart, Each and every individual, we are none other than PFT, the experiencer, perceiver, feeler, thinker, experiencer. Who is this PFT? This PFT is none other than Om, the pure consciousness. PFT is none other than Om, with a wrong notion that he is the BMI, going through the experiences in OET. The world around us, that is OET. The instrument to interact with the world, that is BMI. So what are we doing? We are all PFTs interacting with the OETs through the instruments of BMIs. This is life. PFTs interacting with the OETs through the instrument of BMIs. So who are these PFTs? They are none other than Om, the pure consciousness, with the color of vasanas. Each one of us, our worlds are different because our vasanas are different. So this is the essential, what you call, description of BMI chart. Now, the question is, can we blame God for whatever is happening to us? Generally, we say, why did God push me into this world of suffering, etc.? You have chosen it. You can't blame the Lord. You are in this world because you have chosen the world. Just like that cricketer. Who chose that world? He chose by choosing a thought. You choose the world. You choose the type of the world also. Now a question may come. Swamiji, who will choose suffering? Tell me. You said the world is full of suffering. On one side, you say you choose the world. But then you also say the world is full of suffering. You mean to say that we chose suffering? Is there anyone in this world who will choose suffering? Who will choose suffering? So the answer to this question is, are we not choosing the thoughts of anger? Let us observe our own mind. There are times when we become angry and we think that anger is the solution. Yes or no? Are we not choosing the thoughts of revenge? Remember, they are all bitter feelings, but we choose them. The very fact that I am entertaining a particular thought means that I am choosing that thought. So when I am choosing a thought of anger, what kind of world should form around me? An angry world should form around me. When I am choosing a thought of revenge and bitter feeling and hatred, what kind of world should form around me? A world of hatred should form around me. A world of revenge should form around me. So therefore, the very fact that I am choosing these thoughts shows that I alone am responsible for inviting trouble into my life. A person is choosing smoking. He knows that it is not good, but still he chooses it to get that pleasure. So what should happen to that person? He is inviting suffering, isn't it? A person who is choosing drugs and drinks, etc., what is he doing? He is asking for a world of suffering. Just to get a little pleasure, he is asking for suffering. So therefore, we cannot say that, we have not asked for suffering, therefore there should not be suffering. No, we are doing it. Consciously or unconsciously, we are asking for suffering, therefore suffering is coming to us. Many times what happens is, we don't have that ability to see suffering in a situation, and we ask for suffering, not knowing very well that in the end it is going to give me suffering. So it is a lack of discrimination that has to be blamed. I see the superficial pleasure. I'm not able to see the end pain. So I see only the superficial pleasure. So thinking that this is pleasure, I invite it, and finally I end up in pain. So what has to be blamed? The lack of discriminative power. It's called as Viveka Shakti. That has to be blamed. The ability to see deep into any situation and finally seeing pain, that is a role of discriminative intellect. Very many times we get stuck in the superficial thing. For example, junk food. What do you see? What you see depends on your Viveka Shakti. If the Viveka Shakti is dull, you will see the initial pleasure of eating it. If your Viveka Shakti is sharp, you will not get trapped in the initial pleasure. That intellect is able to go deep and it is able to see the end pain of that junk food. Then we say, yes, this man has tremendous Viveka Shakti. He is not trapped in the initial, what you call, it's a trap actually. That initial pleasure is a trap. You get stuck there. You are not able to move further. The intellect is paralyzed, unable to see that pain beyond this pleasure. Pleasure is impermanent, pain is permanent. But the intellect gets stuck there in that impermanent pleasure, the superficial pleasure, that it is not able to think beyond. This is how our intellect cheats us. So coming to this point again, the world is created by us. We have chosen the world. And this is how we create the world around us. We interact with the sense objects, and then we classify them as, these are the things which give me happiness, these are the things which give me misery. We classify them into two. We run after things which give us what you call joy, and we try to avoid those things which give us pain. And finally, slowly, over a period of time, what happens? A world is formed around us. Very interestingly, in this tree, you see the roots, they go up, they go down, and they go parallelly also, isn't it? In the same way, the branches also go down, they go up, they go parallelly. So what is the indication here? The roots which go up inside the mud, they nourish the branches which go up. The roots which go down, they nourish the branches which go down. What are those branches which go down? They are the tamasic worlds. Tamas is always that which goes down. What are the branches which go up? They are the sattvic worlds. Sattvic worlds are the higher worlds. Tamasic worlds are the lower worlds. And the rajasic worlds are the mediocre ones, the middle ones. So we create our world. It can be tamasic, it can be rajasic, or it can be sattvic, depending upon the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic thoughts. We alone create this world. We alone create this world means what? We alone create an environment full of change. World means what? It is nothing but change. So we alone are the cause for constant experience of change. What is constant experience of change? Nothing but bondage. Remember, what is bondage? Nothing but suffering. So who is the cause of suffering? I myself am the cause of suffering. Right? Adhaschordhvam prasirtaha tasya shakhaha Guna pravurdha, this tree is nourished by guna, sattva, rajas, tamas. Vishaya pravala, adhascha mulani, anusantatani. Anusantani means it has spread over. Karmanubandhini manushya. So we are all this samsara vriksha, constantly experiencing change, constantly miserable. How to come out of this misery? That is the next topic. And that's the main topic also. Narupamasyeha tatha upalabhyate. This experiencer who is experiencing this change, what is his nature? So Bhagavan says, his nature is not known. Rupa means nature. Rupam can also mean form. What is his nature? It is not known. Na antaha, na adihi, na cha sampratishta. It has no beginning, it has no end. So here, the nature of this ego, the experiencer, he said, it is not available. What does it mean, it is not available? One meaning is, such an entity doesn't exist. Narupam upalabhyate means what? Actually, it is an illusory thing. It is not a real thing. It is an imagination. So what is ego? Ego is nothing but a wrong notion in the mind of Om, the pure consciousness. What is this ego? It is nothing but a wrong notion. What is a wrong notion? Any notion is a thought. An imaginary wrong thought is called wrong notion. That which doesn't exist. It is just an imagination. Imagination is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. So what is this ego? It is nothing but a bundle of thoughts which actually doesn't exist. Suppose you are imagining an elephant. In your mind, you have a picture of elephant. Does that elephant exist or not? What will be your answer? In your mind, you are imagining an elephant. Is it existing or not? You say, no, it doesn't exist. It is just an imagination, isn't it? In the same way, this ego, which appears to be so real, in fact, this appears to be so real that the real doesn't exist. We say, this ego to exist. I am existing. God exists or not, I don't know. To that extent, reality we have given to this ego. What is Bhagavan saying here? Narupam asya iha tatha upalabhyate. It is not available. It is not available because it's an illusion. The pure consciousness, Satchit Ananda Atma, entertaining a wrong notion is called as Jivatma. So what is the definition of Jivatma? Paramatma having a wrong notion is Jivatma. Paramatma in his ignorance is called Jivatma. Paramatma identified with the BMI is Jivatma. Ignorant Paramatma is called Jivatma. So actually, who is Jivatma? He is not different from Paramatma at all. So does Jivatma exist? No, it is not existing because it is born out of ignorance. See? Actually speaking, dreamer doesn't exist. Who exists? Only the waker exists. Waker, misunderstanding himself to be the dreamer, is the one who is suffering in the dream. Isn't it? Just because I imagine something about myself, I don't become that. So therefore, does Jivatma exist? What is the answer? Narupamasyeha tathopalabhyate. It doesn't exist. Even when we are unaware of this truth, the fact is a fact. What? Jivatma is none other than Paramatma alone. It is just a wrong notion. A wrong notion does not change an entity. A lion which thinks that it is a sheep, will it become a sheep? No. Even when that wrong notion exists, that lion remains a lion. The sheep doesn't exist. It's just a wrong notion. Narupamasya. The moment you start inquiring into the nature of Jivatma, you come to know that Jivatma doesn't exist at all. Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvata aipatatyaham nija vicharanam. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. The moment you start inquiring into the nature of aham, what happens to this ego aham? It just falls. It disappears. So therefore, Bhagavan says, actually speaking, this ego doesn't exist at all. But as long as inquiry is not there, inquiry is not done into the nature of this aham, it will appear as though it is a solid reality. Now, a question may come which generally people ask. A question which generally they ask is, when did this ignorance start? Because there is a belief among people that some time back I was Paramatma, then I slipped into ignorance, and now I have become a Jivatma. But some time back I was Paramatma. Some time back I was reveling blissfully in the self, then maybe I might have thought I want to change, and then suddenly I became Jivatma. The fact is, na adihi. See the term, Bhagavan himself is saying this, adi. There is no beginning. There is no beginning means what? It was beginningless. There was never a time in our infinite past, there was never a time when we were Paramatma and then we desired to become Jivatma. There was never a time. Na adi. It is logically unacceptable. What is logically unacceptable? Paramatma at some point of time becoming a Jivatma. It is logically unacceptable. Why? Paramatma means knowledge. Jivatma means ignorance. Jivatma coming from Paramatma means what? Ignorance coming from knowledge. Is it possible? How can ignorance come from knowledge? Yes, knowledge can come from ignorance. That is possible. A person is ignorant and slowly he gained knowledge and now he became knowledgeable. First ignorance, then knowledge, it is possible. Is it possible? First knowledge and then ignorance? It is logically unacceptable. So then what we have to conclude? We have to conclude that there was never a time when we had the knowledge of the self in our infinite past. Na adihi. So from the beginningless past, we have been Jivatmas alone. Na antaha. Suppose we don't strive to gain this self-knowledge, then this ignorance will continue. How long? Na antaha. It is endless. The state of Jivatma is beginningless, and it can go on endlessly as long as we don't strive to gain knowledge. Na adi, na anta. Nacha sampratishta. Nacha sampratishta means what? In this world of experience, you will never find an entity which is absolutely changeless, which gives support to the whole world of change. In this world, you will never find a changeless substratum supporting the change. For any change to happen, there has to be a changeless substratum. In this world, you will not find it. Nacha sampratishta. We are all Vedantic students, so we know what that sampratishta is. What is that sampratishta? It is none other than consciousness in us. That is a sampratishta. But in this world, there is no sampratishta. And this is the biggest mistake which all the scientists are making. What is the mistake the scientist community they are making? They have ignored the observer in us. Their attention is only about the observed phenomenon, the outer world. Now they are trying to find out some reality in the outer world, which is the cause of the whole world. It is just impossible. Exactly like in the dream world, you will not find anything which is real, which you will experience after waking up. In the dream world, there is no reality which is supporting the entire dream. In the dream world, there is no changeless entity which is supporting all the changes of the dream. What is the only thing which can survive the dream world? The observer of the dream. That is the sampratishta there. So pure consciousness alone is a sampratishta. So as long as your attention is outward, you will never find a changeless substratum. Remember, change means misery. We have defined it earlier. Change means helplessness, change means misery. So if you want a changeless thing, because only by holding on to a changeless thing, you can feel secure, you can feel happy. So if you're trying to search for that changeless thing in the outer world, you are going to fail. Nacha sampratishta. So then where should you search? You must search not in the world, but in the observer, the pure consciousness, which is urdhva moolam. This is the point. The sadhana part we will see tomorrow. Now here, one more thing we have to keep in mind. Unless the mind is purified, mind cannot be transcended. Once again, unless the mind is purified, mind cannot be transcended. The first step is not transcending the world. The first step in spirituality is divinizing the world or beautifying the world, creating a beautiful world around us. This is the first step. So in the technical language, we say, Manashuddhi is the first step, not Manonasha. Destruction of the mind is not the first step. Purification of mind is the first step. So very many people say, how can you, Swamiji, how can you say the world is an illusion, it doesn't exist? Arey, that lesson is not for the LKG students. That world is an illusion, it doesn't exist. Don't go there. It is a PhD level. Don't give this advice to anyone. Start from purification. Make your thoughts noble, good. Make the world around you beautiful. If your thoughts are good, your actions are good, your habits are good, naturally you will have a wonderful personality. Everybody will love and respect you. First, create such a personality in you. That is the first step. That is called as Chitta Shuddhi. Be a good person. Be a person whom others love. Be a person who is selfless, who gives peace and happiness to everyone. And this is possible only when your thoughts are good, noble, and divine. That is the first step. So what happens to a person who evolves in spirituality? He creates a beautiful world around himself or herself. Right? That's the first step. Helplessly, people will get attracted to you if your thoughts, emotions, intentions, etc. are good and noble and pure. They will get attracted. Right? So the first step is purification of mind. All these things, anyway, these topics we will take up later also. So here, let me conclude this topic. The whole thing is bondage is self-created. The entire essence of today's discussion is this. Bondage is self-created. This has to be clearly understood. Bondage is not something which is superimposed upon us by God. No, it is self-created. How do you know? Verse number 2 is the description. We interact with the world. Based on Sukha, Dukkha, Raga, Dvesha, we choose, we perform action, and this action, they put us into this world of change. We are constantly experiencing change because we asked for change. Right? This topic, a little more detail we will see tomorrow also. So now, I think we have a small question answer session. Amma?
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Swamiji, for such a well-explained account. You talked about, equating bondage with helplessness, and then went on to show us how change is nothing but bondage, and that we are responsible for that change, and hence we are also responsible for our bondage. And you explained it so perfectly with so much clarity and simplicity. I think every one of us got this message across, but it's a very difficult subject, a very difficult concept, but you put it across very lucidly. Thank you very much. We look forward to exploring this subject a little bit more because we have 2 more days with you. So we will explore it a little more and understand a little more. Now, for the rest of us, kindly raise your hand icon in your chat box and unmute yourself if you have any questions to ask. Any questions? Okay, Swamiji, may I ask a question, please?
Yes, yes.
Okay, before the others get moving. Swamiji, you said that there is no way that we were once, Paramatma and we became Atma. Yes, you said that. Now, all through the scriptures, we are told that we are Brahman. And it's just that we are ignorant of Brahman.
Yes.
Can you kind of explain that to me, please? Why is it if we were Paramatma, then we were all knowledge, right? Then we were Brahman. Why is it we keep saying, search for that self, search for the ultimate in you, the absolute in you. How can we if we were never that?
See, we are always that. But we never knew that.
Okay.
There is a difference between being and knowing. Our problem is not the problem of being. We are always Paramatma only.
Okay.
But we never knew that we were Paramatma. As far as the truth is concerned, we are all Paramatmas alone from the beginningless past. But the problem is we are not aware of that fact. We are ignorant of this fact that we are Paramatma. The question is, when did this ignorance start?
Yeah.
So then we say it is Anadi. It is beginningless.
Okay. Okay. I understand. Totally. Thank you. Thank you. That was great. Thank you.
Right. Right.
Now, there are many others with.
Yes.
Anil ji, please unmute.
Hello.
Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji, thank you for that lovely discourse. And so very beautifully explained. I have a question around the word which you mentioned, this was the last bit of explainer, which was called as Urdhva Moolam, right? So I am unable to reconcile myself with the inherent contradiction in the word. When I understand Urdhva is upward and
Yes.
Moolam is basically hidden or
Yes.
underground.
Yes.
So could you please explain this in a, so that I can understand this better? So Urdhva Moolam.
This topic
Thank
will
you.
anyway come tomorrow and day after. So anyway, I'll give a what you call a brief description. Urdhva means something higher. So higher means what? That which is a cause is always called higher. For example, parents are higher, children are lower, isn't it? So children have to bow down at the feet of parents. Why? Parents are the cause, children are the effect. Anything which is higher, which is cause, is always, it is considered higher. So Bhagavan is Urdhvam. Here Urdhva Moolam means that root is not the secondary root, that's the primary root, the central root. So two types of roots are there. One is the primary, the other is the secondary. The main root and the secondary root. So the main root is Bhagavan. Without Bhagavan, we have no existence. Existence has come from him. So since we are existing because he exists, just like gold exists and then comes ornaments. So we can say gold is a urdhvam. Without gold, there are no ornaments. In the same way, this consciousness in us is that urdhva moolam, without which we have no existence. Minus consciousness, we are not there. Just like minus water, there is no wave. That is why it's called urdhvam, higher. It is also called urdhvam because if you know that, the purpose of life is served. If you know that, matter is over. Urdhvam, higher. It is also higher because it is nityam. The only thing which is eternal in this world is that. So therefore also it is called urdhvam. These are some of the reasons. More of it we will anyway see tomorrow and day after.
Yeah, we have one.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Ah,
I have a question for this. You said for this 5-year-old boy who selected cricket, and that were his thoughts
yes.
for a 5-year-old boy, and that's how he started creating the change around him.
Yes.
But the 5-year-old boy would not have that wisdom or the that he should not be doing this. How would a 5-year-old boy know about it? How would he create a change? A 5-year-old boy is a young, immature child.
Yes.
How would he create a change with his thought, not knowing that he should not be doing that?
See, whenever you commit a mistake, you suffer. This is a law of this universe.
Right.
So every one of us, we correct ourselves whenever there is suffering. Whenever there is suffering, the first thing happens is introspection. Where did I go wrong? Because pain is something which we can't like it. So whenever pain comes, immediately introspection starts. Where did I go wrong? Because of which I am suffering. So suddenly you come to, oh, this is a mistake I've done. Then you correct and move forward. Life is nothing but this. Commit mistake, suffer, introspect, correct yourself, move ahead. This is life.
So what you're saying is this 5-year-old boy, he selected cricket, and down the road when he realized that he's suffering, when he got the maturity or the knowledge, little bit of knowledge, that's when he starts accepting that he has to move into the changing of himself.
No, what is your question actually?
My question is, how will a 5-year-old boy know that he should not be selecting cricket, which is going to give him suffering? He does not know what suffering is at the age of 5.
No, that example was given to indicate how we are creating our world around us. He chose cricket, therefore a cricket world was formed around him. That example was not given to know whether it is right or wrong. That is not the point there. Did you understand?
Yes.
A person, how he is creating unconsciously, how he is creating a world. Another child chooses politics and he creates a political world. Another child chooses engineering, he creates an engineering world. So in short, our thoughts create the world around us. To indicate that, I have given that example there.
Okay. So age does not, okay, I got it.
No. Age has nothing to do with that.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Right.
Are there any more questions?
Yes.
Yeah, Hari Om. You said that ego is a wrong notion
Ha.
in the mind of Paramatma.
Yes.
So this kind of confused me because Paramatma having a mind and having a wrong concept.
Hmm.
This confused me.
Paramatma with mind is called Jivatma.
Yes,
Paramatma actually doesn't need a mind, he doesn't have a mind.
correct. Yes,
Right.
yes,
So, Paramatma with a mind is called Jivatma.
yes.
And that mind has some wrong notion. So, who is having wrong notion? It is always the Jivatma who is having wrong notion.
Yes, correct.
But then when you inquire into Jivatma, you don't find Jivatma there. There is only Paramatma.
Yes.
So, therefore, we have to say Paramatma with wrong notion is Jivatma.
Yes, Swami.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Ha.
Swamiji, you just mentioned that it was just an example you gave about the boy choosing cricket.
Yes.
So then if somebody chooses something higher, the spiritual life, even at the age of 5 or 6, is that all to do with your past karmas, what you, the kind of family you're born with? That's where, those particular vasanas make you
Yes.
born in a, so is all that even connected? Because like we said, that little boy doesn't know better. But
Yes.
the fact that
Yes.
he's suddenly saying, I want to study Vedanta,
Yes.
it obviously depends even in your.
Yes, very true. Very true. The past, nothing of the past is lost. Whatever effort, because everywhere effort is needed. In the past, you have put forth effort in learning Vedanta. So in the next birth, whatever you have learned, it is added to you. You, as though you revise it and you get everything quickly because you have already done the homework earlier. So nothing is lost.
Great. So it's just your level of, in that sense, your stage of spiritual life where these vasanas come up in you.
Yes, yes. Whatever you have gathered from the past birth, it just comes with you.
Yeah.
That's why we find such a big difference. Some at a very young age, they take up spirituality. Some others, even when they are old, they struggle a lot. Why this difference? This difference is because, it's a relay race. He has been running for a long time. So he's far ahead. The bodily age has nothing to do with, maturity and wisdom of a person.
Thank you so much.
Right. Very well.
Are there any more questions?
No, no one else.
All right, thank you. We thank our Aarti Yajmans for today, Srimati Saloni Roy Kapoor and Srimati Sangeeta Vaswani. Just a reminder, Guru Dakshina may be offered on the donation link provided in the chat box.
Hari Om, 1 minute.
Yes.
Somebody, Rita,
Swami.
somebody had asked this question, Swamiji, roots represent the world. What do branches represent? Amma Rita Shah, is she there? Rita Shah. Amma, are you there? Whoever has asked this question. See, there is a question in the chat box. Roots represent the world. What do branches represent? Amma, roots represent vasanas. They don't represent world.
Oh.
Roots represent the vasanas which are not seen. You see the vasanas inside, it is not seen. And branches represent the outer world, including the body. The world around me, the body, etc. They represent the branches, and the roots, they represent the vasanas, the tendencies inside, the samskaras inside.
Yeah.
Amma, is it clear, Rita Shah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very
Okay.
good.
Right.
All right. The YouTube link for today's talk will be shared with you later by your respective sevaks and sevikas. I request all of you now to kindly switch on your videos so that we can take some Zoom fees. Okay. Everybody, please switch on. Thank you. Are we done with the Zoom fees? Right, lovely. We will now conclude with the Gita Aarti, which will be followed by the closing prayers by Alka ji. Hari Om.
प्रकाशिनी कामासक्ति हरा तत्त्वज्ञान विकाशिनी विद्या ब्रह्म परा ओम जय भगवती ते निश्चल भक्ति विधायिनी निर्मल मलहारिणी शरण रहस्य प्रदायिनी सब विधि सुखकारी ओम जय भगवती ते राग द्वेष विदारिणी कारिणी मोद सदा भव भयहारिणी तारिणी परमानंद प्रदा ओम जय भगवती ते आसुर भाव विनाशिनी नाशिनी तमरजनी दैवी सद्गुणदायिनी हरिरसिका सजनी ओम जय भगवती ते समता त्याग सिखावनी हरिमुख की बानी सकल शास्त्र की स्वामिनी श्रुतियों की रानी ओम जय भगवती ते दया सुधा बरसावनी मातु कृपा की जय हरि पर प्रेम दान कर अपनों कर ली जय ओम जय भगवती ते ओम जय भगवती ते मैया जय भगवती ते हरिया कमल विहारिणी सुंदर सुपुनीते ओम जय भगवती ते ओम जय भगवती ते ओम जय भगवती ते बोलिए गीता मैया की जय
ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम थैंक यू स्वामी जी